On this week's episode of Friend Code, we're talking about the recent Smash Brothers Direct, the Zelda Timeline gets updated, and how do you pronounce the Nintendo Entertainment System when it's abbreviated? Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Friend Code. I'm your host, Michael Damiani, and I'm joined by special guest Matt Simmons.
Hello everyone.
And Kyle Bosman.
Hello everyone.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, you picked a great day for all of this.
This is a lot of good stuff. Before we dive in, I just need to make one statement of clarification. No corrections, it's a clarification. I would just like to say the explanation for last episode why I talked about Resident Evil 2
Oh boy.
is because I saw it at San Diego Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. We needed to provide coverage for it because we were given an appointment by Capcom. It was an official press appointment, and they were expecting some form of coverage of that game from us. Everyone was busy that week. I pitched some ideas around, and just to do like a one-off. No one had time that week, and I don't have control of other people's shows. Everyone's like, Damiani, you should have talked about it on the Easy Allies podcast. I'm like, I'm not Kyle Bosman. Mm-hmm. I don't pick the topic.
Yep.
If I tried to do that, Kyle would have been like...
I would have said no.
There you go. You would have had like that.
Yeah.
Ben already had frame chat done, and I had to do it somewhere. Friend Code was the only place it was going to work out, so it was an obligation. I was obligated to provide that coverage and do it. That was the only place to do it. It was not me trolling. It was not intentionally trolling, but I do hope all of you understand and aren't too angry about that. So, thank you for hearing my explanation and trying to be understanding about it.
Damiani, to me, that sounded like an apology.
Maybe.
A little bit.
Maybe.
I'm just going to throw my 2 cents on that.
Well, I don't want to apologize for coverage is the thing, but okay, I do want to say, my bad on not being more forthcoming on why we did it in that episode.
I got you.
And I did have a little bit of a smug attitude when I was like, this is my thing, I'm going to do it. And, kind of like egged on by Huber, because he was like, yo, Resident Evil 2, let's talk about that all the time. It was me. I'm not going to put on Huber. It was nothing of Huber.
I'll tell you a coverage thing that I feel bad about.
Oh, what?
I was sent a code for the Final Fantasy fishing game.
Oh, yeah.
The VR one?
Yeah, the VR one.
Kyle.
Yeah. And haven't started it, haven't downloaded it, but the PR rep was like, "Hey, you got any videos? Send me a link when you got a video." It's just I haven't I have not.
Oh man, we didn't get sent it, but I have videos of it.
Do you like it?
It's cute. I don't know how to. I mean, that's probably a weird thing to say, but
that's the right word.
Because it's still within the universe of 15, of course, but they kind of put a serious backstory into the fishing minigame.
Cool. Like
it starts out kind of really dramatic, and then it eases off, and then you kind of just doing whatever, and then they had boss fights into it. I don't know how. It's what? So weird because
big fish.
They do this thing where they kind of combine a light gun shooter with fishing. Sick. You have to weaken the fish and then fish it out. It's a clever, cute little thing.
I am now going to send this link to Square Enix.
There you go.
We covered it.
We just fulfilled another obligation.
Obligation fulfilled.
And just we're not making this up. You have to have heard on some streams before Blood were saying when we ask for codes and stuff we got to do coverage basically.
Yes.
We will not just ask for stuff and then unless we feel like we're gonna do something with it. Otherwise, it's kind of it's not very professional.
Yes.
So now with that out of the way, let's talk about some fun stuff.
Yes.
Let's start with this morning's Super Smash Brothers Direct. Kyle and Brendan reacted to it this morning. Mm-hmm. I know you did as well, Simmons.
I sure did.
And I want to say real quick before we get into the questions for this, holy shit, this game really is ultimate.
It's ultimate, man.
E3 plus this, that title, it's so deserving of that title. So deserved.
Yeah, because usually it's kind of sort of like Ubisoft PR speak. Mm-hmm. The iconic hat, the iconic this, or the old. This is actually a little bit more NetherRealmy, where it's it's ultimate or KI shit. This kind of earns it a little bit, a lot more than most games, because most games don't have 73 characters.
Yeah.
In their roster, and covering 5 third parties as well as first parties. So, I don't know how you guys. What did you guys? Okay, honest to God, what did you think, Simon, at the beginning? Like, how was your sort of like gut feeling on it? Because to me,
Yeah, the Castlevania reveal. How do you take
I
that?
was not shocked because it was heavily rumored going into E3.
Yeah.
So when it showed up, I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, it was a little dampened a bit just because we'd heard rumblings of it. But then the CG was super good.
Yep.
And then Richter jumped in. And then I was like, oh, they're going all out for it. Okay.
And it didn't stop there with Richter.
Yeah.
It's just then more
Right,
and more
exactly.
ad cards here.
Yeah, how do you
We
like
got
the stuff about
stage?
Yeah, the stage. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the stage. How do you like all the details about the stage? The Dracula
I like it. I
going up
kind of
those stairs.
in Smash Bros. I kind of hate bosses. I don't
Okay.
like bosses showing up in a Smash Bros.
But
match.
that's an interesting thing, though. Because when they said bosses, like jumping a little bit ahead, they said Rathalos is boss
Yes.
and an assist. And I'm like, and that area that Rathalos is in from Monster Hunter 4
Yeah.
doesn't look like a stage, and he's a boss. I'm thinking that's an adventure mode.
Ooh, we skipped ahead to something really exciting.
Because that was not talked about in the direct. They blurred something out.
Yeah.
But when they had Castlevania Once in a Blue Moon and they teased another silhouette, even beyond Dracula, and then they had the Rathalos on an area that did not look like a traditional
Because it's
map.
flat. If you haven't seen it, it's
Yeah.
just a big
It was
flat
super flat.
stage.
Now, Bridge of Elden's also flat, but it is also a bridge. It has a certain look to it. This looked a lot like when you fought, I think it's Rayquaza in Brawl, when you're just kind of like on that flat plains by the lake, and
Oh yeah,
and he just comes out and you just fight him there. I'm like, that looks a lot like stuff from Adventure Mode and Subspace to me.
Yeah, I mean, Bridge of Elden has gimmicks too. It's like roar, roar, and like
Yeah.
the things are
Yeah,
like
King
falling
Bulbos
out.
runs out,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's a really good theory because we saw no gimmicks in that stage other than Rathalos.
Yeah. And it didn't even look like it even had anything else going on other than, hey, by the way, this looks like Monster Hunter 4.
Yeah.
So that was the surprising thing, because when they showed Dracula and it's like, oh, he's a boss, I'm like, Yellow Devil or actual Subspace? Because Subspace had bosses
Yeah.
that weren't assist trophies or anything.
Because the Castlevania stage, they showed multiple bosses. Dracula is going to be a special event. They even put like the list of bosses and put question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah.
But then they did talk about Dracula. So what's the secret behind this? So I think this does get you thinking. At least I don't know if you agree. This makes you think about: is there gonna be a story adventure mode type thing? Is this all alluding to something like that? Before we get too deep into that, though, we'll keep going through some of the announcements here.
Sure.
How did you feel about the Echo Fighters announced Crom and Dark Samus?
Dark Samus, yes. Crom, snooze. Boring.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the
Wow.
same boat with you there, where it was like, Dark Samus wasn't mind blowing because it had been an assist trophy, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad Metroid's getting another rep.
Yeah.
And then Crom is like, okay, another one.
Yes.
And
Another one from Awakening.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yeah.
another one from Awakening. I'm like, why? I'm just sitting here like, why couldn't it have been Lynn? Why not Lynn? But no, it's Crom. And
Yeah.
almost because like they teased it in the Smash 4.
Oh, yeah.
In the Robin,
In the arena thing?
Yeah,
That
the
whole
Robin
trailer,
trailer.
yeah.
Maybe I'll get my chance some other day. And it's like, okay, we teased it then. Now we'll bring him in officially. And I don't know if you saw, he's an echo of Roy.
Oh, I didn't realize it was different. That's funny.
Yeah, on the website it lists Roy Echo for Crom.
Cool.
So kind of interesting, I
Right.
guess.
I think it's neat that they have those two. Neither one of them like got me excited.
Right.
I was-
Daisy
like-
was way huger.
In fact, like Dark Samus,
Daisy, yeah.
Dark
Yeah.
Samus is like, okay, cool. I don't care. It's like whatever.
She has cool movement. I like her. She looks like a creep when
I
she
guess
moves
so.
around.
I guess maybe I need to play it to see like what's the big deal about it.
Oh, the differences seem almost negligible. You
Yeah.
know, I can't really notice a difference.
I don't think there will be.
Because
Yeah.
when it was an assist trophy, Dark Samus, because it's just like a blob of like Aether or something like that, right? Or,
She's from 2, right? Metroid
Dark,
Prime 2.
Dark Samus is Metroid Prime 2. At least that
Yes.
model looked like Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah,
I think wasn't it around in 3 as well? Might have been. Anyways, point is, like, when she's in assist trophy, she does this
Wait.
thing where she smishes the ground and like all these things come out of the ground, and she has these tracking orbs that go in the air. But I don't think she has any of that.
Yeah.
In as a playable character, she is truly just an Echo.
Yeah.
Although I think her final smash was like the old. It's just
It was a
Samus's,
beam.
right?
It was
Just a big giant
beam.
beam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
kind of excited. Kind of, but not mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm excited for more echoes. I really actually like the idea of echo characters.
They're probably going to be a lot more that we haven't heard because they're kind of brilliant because they really aren't new characters. This maybe new models, new aesthetics, but the move set they don't have to do all that work to basically change up a lot.
And what's funny is it's simply the branding that used to bother me so much. Like when I was like, Wolf, come on, nobody wants this. It's like, why is that guy in this? And now there's like Wolf's an echo character. It's like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Actually, I think he gets his own slot. I don't think he's referred to as an echo.
I believe he's considered a little bit unique because the way his shield works and how his gun has like a hitbox on it.
Sure.
So even if you can get pistol whipped with it because of the little blade on the end. So yeah, he's technically different.
I know.
Technically,
is Dr. Mario an echo?
His forward B is a little different.
Is Dr. Mario an echo? I don't think he is either.
No.
I think Dr. Mario gets his own slot.
But his properties changed a lot because he has the original down B, which is the spinning, the little tornado spin, where Mario pulls out the flood now.
Sure.
So it actually changed, and his pills have like a bouncing mechanic, whereas Mario's fireballs have a different bouncing mechanic to it. So it's like... I can go into this. I can get into the details if you want, but it's like, yes,
things
technically.
Sakurai wants you to notice.
Yes,
for sure.
exactly.
One other, probably maybe the biggest announcement, you could argue, King K. Rool. How are you excited about this character being in here? And two, what did you think about that reveal? Because I like Nintendo being playful with that reveal.
The reveal's 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
That was a great reveal.
And I mean, you're probably aware of this, that Sakurai does the voice for King Dedede.
Yes.
So when he's doing the thing and he fakes out and he's laughing, I'm like, that's Sakurai literally trolling the internet.
Yes. I think he knows. I think he knows how bad of a character King K. Rool actually is, but he's like, fine, you want him? I'm going to make him work. I'm going to make him into a Smash character.
It's a little bizarre to me because... I love the Donkey Kong Country series, like especially Tropical Freeze and like 1 and 2. I was the person going like, why does everyone want King K. Rool so bad? I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I love the games, but I'm like, what's he gonna do? Throw his crown? Like, I mean,
and he does.
and like you just belly flop on you. I mean, I was smiling the whole time through that trailer just because it was so ridiculous, just the idea that it's even happening.
Yeah.
But he was always one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm a big fan of those games, love those games. Like, well, don't you want King K. Rool?
Yeah.
Like, take it or leave it for me, most honestly, on that character. But I'm glad he's here.
I love the characters bouncing off his head.
Yep.
Like nod to like the boss battle mechanics. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I like him.
Touches like that.
I like his deflect. He clearly has a counter with his big golden belly.
Yeah, the punch from DK64.
Yeah.
Like,
so if you notice, every move is from each one of the games. Where he has the crown throw from 1, he does the pirate hat with the gun.
Oh yeah,
the blunderbuss, and then he does the jetpack for the 3. Helicopter thing from 3, and he has the boxing gloves from DK64.
So I thought the hat was an alternate costume. So every time he does that, like the hat pops out.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but he definitely has a blunderbuss.
Yes, a big old it's huge.
So yeah, I'm not sure if the hat is a costume, and that is actually an excellent point because it may be a costume.
Yeah, he's got to have at least one alt thing, so maybe that's it.
Looks good though.
They showed a couple things on the website where it was like purple and pinkish colors,
cool.
like other Kremlin colors they had in the game, where he could be those other like weird off colors that they used.
Yeah.
So that's neat.
He's like the character I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him to be there, actually, Damiani.
I like
him.
the side-by-side shot with him and Bowser, just showing, like you got a new big guy in town.
Yeah.
Better watch out. There was a lot of other stuff though. We're not done. New characters, new Echo Fighters was part of it. They wanted to kind of like beat their chest a little bit with this direct. They were like, oh yeah. So let's talk about stages.
Okay.
Over 100 stages, 103 actually if you count these ones, and if you count all the Omega versions, it's kind of closer to 300. And we got over 800 tracks of music, and if you throw in all the menu and fanfare variants, it's 900. I was like, okay, we got a lot of stuff in here. They talked about all like the stages in here, all these customization options, special. We can talk about all this individually in just a second.
Sure.
Shout outs to stamina mode and the final smash meter mechanic they introduced to make it more like a traditional fighting game. Classic mode coming back, at the very least. The training stage stuff
Yeah.
With all the data now that players are going to be able to who care about competitive level of play, now we'll be able to break down everything in that stage, like trajectories based on percentages, like frame data, all that stuff's going to be there. And there's still more to come because we talked a little bit about that blurred out mode in the greens.
He knows what he's doing.
What is this?
Yes.
So
You know what it is.
all this stuff that was not saying, like the thing I want to ask before we move into the Q&A stuff is, were you impressed with this direct? Like all this information is like, did you feel good about this? And did you say wow at the end?
I would say I was impressed that it came out 2 months after E3.
Yeah.
Like to me, that was kind of like, wow, that was a lot of info dump. That was only 2 months after E3, and it's still like, you know, a good 4+ months till launch. So I'm like, I'm impressed they held all that info back and then released. And then I thought, okay, here's the deal. They probably didn't have Simon and K. Rool in a playable state. And at E3, they wanted all the new announced characters to be playable.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Daisy was, but Echo. So I think the idea was like, we don't want to like reveal new characters and then not have them playable. We wanted them to play stuff we announced. And maybe that's why they held off at least on the characters a bit. But it is interesting that there still was so much to talk about because those Treehouse lives, you know, they go for like an hour each, you know, and they could have gone over all of that during the E3, Treehouse segments. So yeah, I'm more just impressed on the timing of this thing and the fact that they didn't talk about it at all at Evo, even though they were an official sponsor.
Yeah.
They were an official sponsor. They didn't want to say nothing.
They announced the direct at Evo. That
Right.
was their announcement. It's like, hey, we got a direct coming up.
Part of me wonders if that's a little bit of bitterness over the fact that they chose Melee over Part 4 for their grand finals in the big arena on Sunday.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that was a little bit like, I'm not going to give you a bone when you keep, trying to like, you're not promoting the newest game, you're promoting like an older one kind of
You know what I was curious about? I wondered, I didn't even look how many people were watching this on Twitch. And if it is more or less than how many people were watching the grand finals of Melee.
I think there are probably more people watching Grand Finals of Melee.
I think so too. That's like a huge captive audience. I mean, whatever.
Well, there was like a real weird controversy where like the final contestants for Smash 4, because they played on Saturday, kind of like not grand finals.
Oh,
so they kind of got a little like sidetracked or side, what do you call it, fridged or whatever. And they just started just goofing off in their final match, and the ref came out and was like, you guys have to compete.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, well, they know the game's not coming back next year. They know they've already been sidelined hard.
The announcers knew it's not coming back next year.
Like everyone was everyone had just kind of blown it off completely.
Yeah.
So I could kind of see where maybe, but it was cool though because Nintendo did go there and they did bring the E3 build of Smash Ultimate. So
they did. That's cool.
Oh yeah, and then they even split it up between for glory or for fun matches. But yeah, I always stuck to for fun personally. But then I saw, because of for fun was 4-player and the line was moving way faster.
Yeah.
All the Smash pros were jumping in that line too.
At Evo, I would not want to do for glory. I would absolutely not.
No.
Yeah. That's cool though. I didn't realize they were supporting it that much. Do they put money into the pots for the winners?
No,
oh,
they
okay.
don't put.
They were sponsors, but I don't think that equated to bonuses or whatever for winners. I think it was just hey, we'll sponsor you, we'll pay for some of your cost of the venue kind of thing like
gotcha.
that.
I think
that's what it
the
was.
whole thing was what Sakurai's interview we talked about on a few friend codes ago. The whole thing that like players competing for money, so the glory of the game, for honor, basically, is not a philosophy they like to subscribe to at Nintendo. Essentially, that was one of the Sakurai comments about competitive play, I believe.
All right.
However, with competitive play,
yeah,
I feel that does open up a little bit to the meter mechanic. Now, how do you all feel about
Love it.
a Final Smash meter?
I hate Smash Balls. I love Final Smashes. And so I'm so pumped. This is 100% what I wanted.
I think it allows them to bring in Final Smashes into competitive tournaments in a way that I think competitive players will agree upon is a more
fair,
balanced way of approaching it
kind
than a ball floating around. I mean, it's less
still an instant kill a lot of times.
It's less tension because like, oh my god, it might make for less entertaining spectatorship if you're not seeing that like moment of tension.
Yeah.
But in terms of like a more competitive play, like higher level of play, it might lead to that. Who knows? We'll have to see. But it is an interesting concept, and it's optional. It's not like they're going with that and nothing else. They did not kill the Smash Ball. This is something that's still going to be there.
It's set to off. You have to seek that out.
It was funny because they actually started by saying, "Here's an option."
Yes.
Before we explain the mechanic, we want to let you know this is optional.
Yes.
For me, it was almost kind of like it was just funny to me watching it because 6 months, a year, no, probably more like a year ago or more, when me and the people I work with, Max in particular, Maximilian dude. He was always arguing like they should add a new mechanic. They should build up a Smash Break, kind of like how Little Mac builds up his big punch. And he's like, that would be really cool because he really hates the idea of a Smash Ball and how it has like the sort of AI and it kind of favors the loser and all that jazz. And I'm just kind of like and I'm kind of always ribbing him a bit by saying like, you just want meter and everything. You just want every fighting game to be homogenized. The same thing, but just thinking on it a little more, where it's like, you know what, this is going to make some interesting matches because it's not. They said it will be a weaker version. Like you're not going to get the same.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Really?
Yeah. It's not the same damage output as a Smash final. Smash
Then it could work
Ball.
competitively. If it's not an instant kill all the time, it could work.
They said two things. Yeah, they said three things. That Okuso also happened more frequently. That's
it does look like the meter builds up pretty fast.
And the second thing is, this will be interesting, is there can't be more than one going at a time.
Yeah.
So if you activate yours, you can't counter with one,
great.
apparently.
Right.
So, like,
you can't
there's
stuff
no counter
one with
super.
another.
Yeah.
And I think that's because some of them are really cinematic, like Ridley's.
Yeah.
Like he takes you into space and like blasts you against the ship. So yeah, but
King K rules, by the way. The best part of his reveal is
DK
his final
64.
smash.
yeah.
It's the game over screen.
Yeah.
Just
Blows up the island.
That's so good.
Also fantastic. So yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's like every time I feel like Max wishes for something in a game, he gets it. Mm-hmm. He got Alien and Predator in Mortal Kombat.
Even Sakurai's watching. Yeah.
He's probably going to get Spawn in like MK11 if that ever does actually get announced. But yeah, it's one of those things like, oh, I want Strider back. He got Strider back in Marvel. So yeah, it's kind of one of those weird things where it's like there's definitely some conspiracy, I feel, where like, I guess you could say Sakurai and in general, people do actually listen in a weird sort of way, because another thing that I was really surprised is, I'm sure it's on your list, is one of the assist trophies, like Shovel Knight, showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't talked about assist trophies
Like,
yet.
an American-made, because a lot of people kept saying, I want Shovel Knight or Shantae in Smash. And I was always telling people, like, guys, Sakurai lives in Japan, and he's very busy. I don't know if he has a lot of time to play just indie games, especially from, Western markets. Nintendo did publish Shovel Knight in Japan.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
They did, yeah, but it didn't take off too well, which is weird, right?
Yeah.
But so I was like, look, I'm like, guys, he just may not even know what Shovel Knight or Shantae is. I kept telling people, like, I'm like, let's be real. I'm like, I'm not saying he's doing it out of spite. I'm saying he probably just has a very, very low grasp on some of these weird, not even weird. That's the wrong thing to say. Just indie Western titles.
Yeah.
You might remember there was one E3 where someone tried to, I don't know, catch Miyamoto when he was saying how Galaxy had spherical levels and no one had ever done that before. And then someone said, well, what about Ratchet and Clank? And he was like, who?
Yeah.
That was his response.
I believe that. That's
Miyamoto's
so
response
funny.
was, what's Ratchet and Clank? He did not know. And then
Sony wasn't giving him boof tours just yet.
And I was sitting there saying to myself, like, I forget what outlet it was. It was IGN or EGM. And I'm like, boo to you too. Sonic Adventure 2. Like,
there's spherical
like,
levels
that had
in
the little
Adventure
spherical things running
That's
around
funny.
ever. That's the only time I'm going to promote Sonic Adventure 2.
Miyamoto was like, who?
Yeah. Who's Sonic?
Who's Sonic?
So I'm like, with that, I thought that was an impressive display of kind of, dude, he's actually extending his hand, because we got two rare era characters with K. Rool and Crystal.
Oh,
who was
yeah.
assist trophy. So that's like bringing the total up to 3, right there. That's 3 Western design characters in Smash Brothers now. And now Shovel Knight, which I tweeted this to Yacht Club Games. I might be wrong, but I believe this is the first American-made game character to be represented in any fashion in Smash Brothers.
Whoa.
It might be. I might be wrong, but I've not been able to think, just within this day, these hours right now. I don't know of any other American-made character.
I'm searching to prove you wrong, and I cannot.
Yeah.
I'm searching. I got nothing.
We'll find out next after this episode goes up. Like,
in the comments,
definitely
absolutely.
tell us.
You know what I loved about the Shovel Knight debut, or when they showed him, is I'm like watching his moves. I'm waiting for him to like do the shovel down thing, and I'm like watching him, and then you don't realize that they're also revealing the moon crashing in at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so before I'm aware of it, the moon from Majora's Mask is just exploding the entire
That was
stage.
so hilarious.
And then Shovel Knight's the only one that's
Because
alive.
I was thrown off. Like, I was caught off guard. And I was like, wait, is there a new Majora's Mask stage?
Yeah.
And it says no, a sit. I'm like, oh, whoa, okay, that's gonna be pretty
You can
awesome.
just summon the moon.
Good stuff.
So what happens when you summon the moon on Termina Bay?
2 moons.
Are there 2 moons?
2 moons.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be like a Nintendo trophy. It's like you have like, it'll unlock a character right there.
Yeah. They
That's a
couldn't reveal that
condition.
yet because that's
Yeah.
what they have to do the online.
That is
system
literally
first,
what the
yes.
blurred out thing in the
How-
green was. It was like trophies.
How bizarre would that be if there were these weird, unique ways you had to unlock characters?
I would love
Like,
that.
what if it was you had to summon the moon on Termina Bay as young Link, in any mode in the game or as someone else, or as any version of a Zelda character?
Yeah.
To summon the moon in Termina Bay.
I would
And
love
that's
that.
how you get young Link instead. Like, what if
Yeah.
it was some weird thing like that, where it was all these secrets and sort of nods. That's how you unlock. Because they said at E3 he wanted to show off a new way to get characters, but he didn't want to say how. And he didn't.
Oh.
And he didn't talk about that on this direct
Amiibos.
either.
It's not amiibo.
That'd be a little shady.
That's cool. That's a really cool
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
So it might be like Subspace, where like you play through it and you unlock characters as you go. But I like this idea of making the characters as achievements. That's a really awesome idea, Matt.
Could be.
We will see.
Because there's always, with the last 2 games, there were 3 ways to unlock every character. And the best way was you would pick Sonic one stock, go to like a flat stage like his,
Yep,
and then just
and
run
run
off
off.
the side. Because it just counted the battles even if you lost. So you would just one stock, just run,
Get
like
those multiple controllers.
whatever.
Sakurai knows. He knows we're doing that, and he's like, "You can't do that. Stop that."
We do. We got some questions.
Okay,
That
let's
some of the stuff we're talking about is gonna be covered in these questions. So I want to get some of these in here so we can keep talking about Smash. This first one is from Andrew Wilson. I think this will be short and sweet answers. Did we really need a direct for Smash just 2 months after Nintendo dedicated, and they put in parentheses, a rather boring 25 minutes to it at E3?
Was this written before or after?
Yes, this was definitely written before.
It has to be written before.
So Andrew, I say like next time, keep in mind, wait till you see it, before
Yeah.
judging. But like I don't know if anyone had that sentiment going in. I didn't. I wasn't thinking, man, why are they doing another Smash Direct so shortly after? But I think we already answered it through our discussion, our excitement that this definitely was warranted.
Yes.
It was good.
I think we'll really know the answer by launch, because if we don't hear much till then the game just comes out, then it might have been like, well, why did you dump it off so early? Why didn't you put it like more in the middle between E3 and launch? But here's the thing. They blurred out that adventure mode. I'm just calling it.
I'm on board. I'm on board.
But so I'm like, okay, I'm thinking they're already teasing that there is more to come and more to talk about, because they've not talked about. Think about this: no Mii costumes yet.
You're right.
For custom characters, no custom stage talk. Obviously, no adventure mode talk, no events.
No online.
no online.
No online.
Yeah.
Very good. They showed online on the menu.
Yes.
Like, they didn't
Yeah.
blur that out. That was there.
Why bother? We know it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then any new modes for online.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so there is a lot of stuff that they have yet to talk about and discuss. That's between E3 and this still not known.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of thinking this was necessary, because do you want an hour-long direct of that? That's almost like too much information to
That's
process.
too much.
And I bet there'll be another one in
Oh
October.
yeah, we'll definitely get. Yeah, we'll get one more this sized one for sure.
Yeah, in
Like coming
October,
out.
November,
Yeah.
or something.
This next one comes from Beaten Down Brian. Hey, allies. Why do you think they didn't bring all these reveals to E3 in an attempt to really blow out Smash Ultimate, rather than having like the direct that was like more focused on they focused a lot on mechanics, I guess is what they were trying to say. Is it as simple as wanting to keep the hype building, and new characters are the best way to do that? Mm-hmm. And having now watched the direct, do you think it was the right choice to withhold a lot of this till now?
Yeah, I think they thought it would be enough at E3. I think they thought they had enough to win E3 by saying all the characters from all the games are in this game. And I think maybe coming into E3, that the Smash team thought that everybody would be a little more excited than we were. We weren't mad, you know what I mean? Nobody was like furious about the game. But yeah, I don't think it lit everybody up. They could have shown more at E3, but I think it is smart. The game's coming December. It's coming late in the year. I think it's actually smart to space this stuff out.
I feel like I kind of answered it.
Yeah,
by
you
saying,
answered it by saying.
I was like, I think maybe they only wanted to reveal new characters that were playable.
Yep.
You know, so maybe that was why, and they knew that Simon and Richter and King K. Rool weren't ready yet. I mean, the other two probably are, but just Crom. Why?
Yeah.
I want my Lin, but I think it was more just it is like you said, it is to keep a hype train rolling, because they don't have a ton coming out this year for post-year content or end of the year.
Yeah.
I should say. It's like you've got, Pokemon Let's Go, which, that's a very 50-50 response already.
Yeah.
And then what? Super Mario Party,
Yep.
which only the people I game with really care about, and I'm the lone person who's like, oh god, not more Mario Party. The friendship ender.
Yeah. Makes for good streams. Yeah. Super Mario Party makes for good streams.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, I mean, they don't have a huge, because like last year, there was like here's Fire Emblem Warriors, here's Mario Odyssey, here's Xenoblade 2, and then there was like other stuff. There was like something Mario and Rabbids before that. So it's kind of like, their later half of last year was so packed.
Yes.
With stuff, and then this year they know it's kind of like, we have a really big Smash and kind of less grandiose updates to Mario Party and Pokemon.
Yeah, and I feel like Nintendo doesn't have that much control over Pokemon's marketing too.
They don't.
Yeah, and so they can't. They really just have to push Smash. That's all they really have.
Yeah.
I
mean,
that.
they're happy to have Pokemon Let's Go, but
yeah,
I was amazed. A few years ago, I had a long conversation with Bill Trinan about it, and it was like, Pokemon Company is its own thing. It's not Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like, trust, we work with them when, there's like there's shareholding between the companies, but it's like, they're actually not Nintendo. They actually, Sakurai does have to get approval for Pokemon in Smash Brothers. Like, they approve what Pokemon show up there. So that was kind of like, wow, I didn't know it was you had to go through all that actual talking with Pokemon Company for that. So interesting side note.
Yeah.
Our next question looks to what we want going forward out of the Smash Directs and reveals. Drew Sherman, and I apologize, I had to reword this a bit because it was also written before the Direct, so I kind of like truncated it to the more relevant parts. Hey guys, what more Smash Ultimate do you want to see after this Direct? Personally, I'd love more information on how I'll be unlocking all these characters.
Yeah.
Through a sort of story mode? A series of challenges? Maybe they'll go back to basics and lay out a series of challenges like in previous Smashes, all leading to a final boss. A giant foot, perhaps? Or 2 giant feet? I also would love to see at least one new and more obscure character addition. I know it's a shot in the dark, but do you think Leon Kennedy would be a good character? He's got his knife, his gun, and of course he's got to stop when he shoots. Maybe a grenade. Perhaps he can eat an herb and lose some damage. Love and respect, baby. Drew S. from NorCal.
Cool. Sorry, what was the first question?
What more do you want to see? And then threw in information about, like, we'll hear about story mode and how, maybe information on how we're going to unlock these characters.
Oh, right. How we unlock them.
Which we briefly talked about, so now you can go.
I can't stop thinking about it. The Monster Hunter stage.
Go wild now.
That's not a Smash stage.
No.
I mean,
and guess what? When they said 103 stages and you pause and you look on that stage select, you can count all 103 right there. So that Monster Hunter stage was not part of that 103 stage thing. It's absolutely part of adventure mode.
Wow. then I'm pumped for that. That's what I want. I actually want to be traveling through the game's worlds instead of this weird like cloud world with weird freaky enemies.
I'm definitely of the opinion, and this is where I get a little bit anti-Sakurai a bit, where when he made the statement like I'm not doing a subspace adventure mode because people will just watch the videos on YouTube and not play the game, and I'm like,
that was nuts.
Okay, look, just because subspace probably wasn't as well done as adventure mode, that doesn't mean you quit on it, or people are going to upload. That's going to happen anyways. Don't quit on it on that. Just make it better. Just improve it. So yeah, that's how I always kind of felt like just take what you had with on GameCube, make it a little better, and go from there. It doesn't have to be a Superstar Ultra Deluxe smooshed into Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling on it.
There was so much potential with Subspace Emissary, and to see them kind of not go back to that in the previous Smash games after Brawl with Wii U and 3DS made my heart sink. And their alternatives they offered just were not. They weren't even as good as Subspace Emissary. No, this is not good. So the evidence that's out there now, especially what like Matt's been arguing, that is more than any character reveal, the return of a story adventure mode in what you were describing, Kyle, which is exactly what I want. Going through these levels based on these classic Nintendo IPs, playing as the characters, fighting enemies and fighting in levels from those series, not generic enemies made up just for the sake of this game.
Yeah.
Just that would send me over. That would get me back on board, like the maximum hype train for this game, being like, let's go December. Let's get there right now. Like, forget everything else in between. I want this immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we've streamed probably hundreds of hours of Smash Brothers on Wii U over the 4 years or whatever it's been out. We have never unlocked that Pac-Land stage, the one that looks like Microsoft Paint. Because
wait, what does it take? Sorry, keep going.
It takes you playing one round or one game on each of the Smash Tour boards. Because remember the Smash Tour board game mode?
Mario Party thing.
The one thing they added because we don't have an adventure mode.
Yeah.
They had that board game mode, and you have to play on all 3 boards once to unlock the Pac-Land stage. We have never unlocked it.
Because it's just too boring?
Who wants to go through Smash Tour? Nobody. So.
Yeah, those are such bummers.
That 3DS one was even weirder. Like the
Smash Run, I think it was
Smash
called?
Run,
Smash
getting like
Run,
the power-ups, the color stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it was
probably a little bit more interesting.
It was definitely more interesting than the board game, so...
I do wonder if the custom characters hasn't been talked about. I wonder if those will be back.
Yeah, because if they're not, then that means Gino's kind of out, right?
Oh, do you mean like with the Mii's?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean like the weird like you had like
Make your
3
own move.
options for your specials,
and
you would unlock them like
right,
with
correct.
random loot. That stuff was so weird. I'd be so happy to see it gone.
I don't want it gone, but I definitely want a way different way of getting it.
Because you had to like get those moves as loot. It was randomized.
It was random loot
Yeah.
drops, and you would go into like the trophy collecting mode. You just pick Ganondorf and you do the bicycle kick. To
Like you have all the hacks to
easily.
these. That's fun.
Yes, exactly. And still, but you didn't know what you were going to get on the drops, so it was oftentimes not what that. It would mostly be a lot of just coins. Occasionally, you'd get a trophy. You get a lot of trophies from it mostly, and occasionally you get a move or two. And it's like we never really use the moves because they're so hard to get, and there's so many characters that it becomes like impossible for anyone to have all the different moves they made. So it was like this huge wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
Because so many people will never see all the completely different moves and stuff you gave for the custom move sets. Because it was just way too hard to get them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, you definitely need to have a way different approach. If they keep it, it's got to be a better delivery system.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. But also subscribe. I'm on your side, Kyle. I wouldn't necessarily mind some of that stuff going away, like the picking the moves and stuff. Seemed like a nice novelty, but in practice, don't need it.
Yeah, I wouldn't cry. I guess I wouldn't cry either if it was gone because I don't use them.
It wouldn't matter.
The best thing was like, it gave Ganondorf a sword and some moves. Oh well, that's fixed naturally now.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of good stuff for the Smash Ultimate Direct, and definitely looking forward to the next one. It's a little bit of a segue. There was a
we owe it to the person who wrote it to talk about Liana as a character.
We
owe it to that person.
So I'm curious. Yeah, do you think Leon's a possibility?
Anyone's a possibility. I don't think Leon's.
Yeah,
anyone in the world
think it's
is
gonna
possible.
happen.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll happen. low possibility. But like you said, anything's possible kind of at this point.
Yeah.
The one thing that will happen is there are 2 Capcom reps. If there's going to be a third one, which I kind of feel there will because now Konami has 3, it's going to be an Echo Fighter of Ken.
Sure.
That's probably what's going to happen. I think you're far, far more likely to see an Echo Fighter from Ryu than you are to see a whole new Resident Evil character in there.
Mm-hmm. It's so much easier. You're so right. Yeah.
I also don't think Leon's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Can I just throw out the one thing I think needs to be addressed?
Sure. Go ahead.
And that is when they're talking about all the music stuff, you pause it and you can see like there are 36 Street Fighter tracks in this game.
Oh, here we go.
Which is, and they said 34 Castlevania tracks.
Yeah.
When they for a second skimmed over Final Fantasy 2. Just 2 for Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Same 2 obviously as the last game. 3 minutes 38 seconds. That's a crying shame. I think that's criminal. The fact and
I wonder if that's a Square Enix thing.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
That's 110% a Square Enix thing. There is no possible way on this planet Sakurai was just kind of like, hey, we'll get Cloud. Should we do any remixes? No. I only want the 2 battle themes, nothing else.
Yeah.
I hated all the other music in every other Final Fantasy game, like just those 2 only. Of course, So that's a problem. And I'm fairly confident in saying I'm pretty sure this is all on Square Enix. So
yeah,
I think they should really, whatever it is that's holding them back, even if it's just okay, you can only get the exact rips from 7. Fine, that's fine, but more than 2.
Yes. Another weird thing is though you can have any music on any stage. Oh no, only of that franchise.
Franchise to stage, yeah.
You're right. So with the Final Fantasy VII stage, you're stuck with just those 2 songs.
Yep.
And that's the way Square Enix wants it.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Because you're right, they won't add more. That was that's the final build of that, the music selection.
How world renowned is Final Fantasy for its music?
Yeah.
And they're holding out.
They know.
on Smash Brothers. Like they want to look like the weird guy who only has 2 tracks, where Sonic has like 40 and Castlevania and Street Fighter have all these other ones. Come on.
But they're so protective of their soundtracks.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
They sell all that stuff. They charge a premium for that stuff. I think anything that's outside of the Square Enix ecosystem, they just want to protect the value of their stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not agreeing with that.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is what they're doing.
I mean, I'm sure that's their
Because
mindset.
Konami was cool.
Yeah.
Konami was cool.
Yeah.
Like,
And so is Sega.
Yeah.
And Sega Atlas. They're fine with
like how do
Sonic
we live in a world in 2018 where Konami is cooler about their stuff getting remixed and used than Square Enix is in Smash Brothers?
Yeah.
It's a Nintendo game. It's not.
Nuts.
Look, it's not like like Majesco's making a comeback and wants to use Final Fantasy characters and is saying, "Don't worry, we'll treat your characters right." In our whatever Crave Entertainment game. Like this is Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe
I'm hoping. I'm gonna hope by December.
Let's see.
December 7th. That they
maybe
come
that
around a little bit on
something
that
might
one.
happen. We'll see.
I feel like Leon is more likely than more Final Fantasy tracks.
Ooh.
Ouch.
That'll be. I'm not sure about that. The segue into our next thing. I will wrap it up by saying one interesting thing I saw, but I don't know if it means anything.
I saw it too.
There's the music, the Zelda music thing. Let's wrap it up on the music here. They showed the Zelda tracks. The last 2 on the right were 2 Breath of the Wild tracks, the 2017 trailer music and theme.
Were 2 Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, there were 2 Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And then
One
there
from
was
like the E3 trailer.
the
right?
E3 trailer or the direct, Switch reveal event music.
Got it.
And then the something in game, one of the in-game tracks.
Yeah. So it has the entire soundtrack to that game, right?
I have the soundtrack. It has a lot more songs.
Yeah, there's like one song on each disc.
No, I know that's a joke, but it
is a joke. It is a joke, and then I actually agree. There is actually a lot of music in the game. It's just it's so hidden sometimes. It's like there's like an amazing track where you're doing that parasail thing to see how far you can go, and it's this awesome sounding music plays for this one mini game that you might never see.
Yeah.
In fact, I did not do that mini game.
It's great music.
Oh, Kyle.
That's funny.
Should've.
I remember that in Wind Waker, trying to get as far as you can. Same thing, basically same concept.
Yeah, you start on a tower, and a guy says like, "I'll give you a prize if you can get this."
Definitely a
much
throwback
distance.
to that.
That's cool.
But there was dot, and a dot vertically in that list I don't know if they just wanted to like, hey, we just want to have it blank there. This is an ellipsis because there's more tracks and we just haven't done it. Or if there are 3 more tracks that just haven't named yet. So I was like,
It could be any of those.
and if it's coming out by December, what could possibly come out between now and then? That would be...
Are you possibly suggesting a new Zelda game? No,
I will not jump off the Ocarina of Time remake bandwagon or Ocarina of Time 3D HD bandwagon until November of 2018 passes.
I did not know this is a bandwagon that exists.
Oh, it's my personal bandwagon.
Neither did I.
This is the Damiani bandwagon that's just been like...
No, it's Damiani and a horse just riding around.
Yeah. There's no wagon. It's just like... it's like if you ever saw Knight's Tale, it's like Geoffrey Chaucer's character at the beginning, like completely naked and stuff. You're like, oh, I'm like a famous person. Like, sir, you're penniless and naked. It's like, nope, I'm on this mission and stuff. Don't worry.
Like the Don Quixote.
Yeah.
So you think they're gonna have a direct by the end of this month or like early September?
I think there'll be a September direct, and it will announce like some games coming out within the next 3 to 4 months. And one of the big reveal will be, guess what? You remember Ocarina of Time 3D? It's coming to your Switch in HD.
I mean, that'd be cool.
That's all it'll be.
I would play through it again.
Yeah.
See, you're talking about what Nintendo should do, not what Nintendo will do. Yeah. There should be absolutely an HD whatever of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. They should just bundle those games together and just say, here you go. I mean, if they want to be even lazier, just take Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, put them on a double disc, and be like, bam, here you go.
Those are ready to go.
They're ready to go. Just they're already in HD.
That doesn't support your theory, though, Damiani, that there would be new musical tracks.
It would, because the Ocarina of Time 3D has an orchestral credits track that I don't think is in Smash Brothers anywhere.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because
true.
It's on Smash Brothers for Wii U, 3DS,
Didn't
I
they do
believe.
one for Majora's Mask
And there's
as well?
one for Majora's Mask, so it's 2. So it could be one I'm just not thinking of that I just can't account for, and those would be the 3.
Okay.
So, or it could be an original new Zelda game, like a
top-down one?
like a top-down one. And there's 3 tracks. That is the most unlikely of the scenarios. But
what about that rumored Link's
Awakening
remake?
Maybe it's that. Who knows? You know, there's a lot of possibilities. But I'm getting ecstatic about Zelda because a thing that I'm not always ecstatic to bring up is the Zelda Timeline is back in headlines.
You did this. I know you love this.
I did this.
I know you actually love this.
I don't know if I love this specific topic that we're about to talk about.
All right, let's do it.
So, why this is back in the headlines, you might see, the Zelda Timeline got updated again. It's because the official Japanese website made an update to their history section, which is the timeline section. There are 2 things were updated. Let's talk about the smaller one. First thing they changed is Link's Awakening was moved from after the Oracle games to before the Oracle games. This change actually was first revealed in one of the earlier encyclopedia books that came out in the last year or 2, but it being also put on the official Japanese website kind of double downs on this change as being cemented.
Sorry, the Oracle games are in one timeline together?
So, yes.
No.
So, the Oracle game...
No.
Oh, Kyle doesn't like this, dude.
But they have them back to back.
You realize they are 2 separate games, and they're part of a larger story, right?
I played through them. Yeah. That's the same Link in both games?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
and
back
actually,
to back.
if you want to get into the most technical sense, canon-wise, Oracle Age is actually supposed to be before Seasons.
Yeah.
Because there's a line of text in one that makes it clear that it's before the other.
Oh.
Otherwise, the events wouldn't make... It's this type of granular stuff is why they're actually revising this, Kyle.
Okay, all right.
So, or which I think, because that is the question, and I think Simmons going to have more to say about this. Nintendo doubling down this change, Simmons, why do you think they're making this change? And do you agree with it?
Just for the Oracles we're talking, right?
We're talking about the Link's Awakening change. We haven't gotten to the big news yet.
Okay,
just stick on the small change first.
The small change is because they kind of had to, because Zelda in that game doesn't know you. When she acts completely differently from Zelda in Link to the Past. So that was always bugging me when they made the timeline and they're like, okay, it goes Link to the Past and then the Oracle games. But I'm like, yeah, but in the Oracle games, Link has no idea who you are. Or I'm sorry, let me correct myself. Link and Zelda don't know each other.
Yeah.
Like the way their dialogue goes. And then like Zelda's got this weird crush on Link, which is just a weird Fujibayashi thing that he's had in his headcanon for years. So when he came into the series, these were his first games. Like, it started there. So
I don't know if that's headcanon. That seems kind of natural for her to have a crush on Link.
but it didn't. It really wasn't a thing until he came along. Like Zelda
Sure.
2. Except Zelda 2, which is just kind of the weird thing where it's like, oh, I've awakened from thousands of years. A man! Let me kiss him behind the curtains. But that's just Zelda 2. But yeah, like it was like there was never any of this weird like shipping thing going on between them. If you think about the dialogue in like Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, like even Majora's Mask, it's like they're friends, but there's nothing like really there. But in the Oracle games, like she tries to like peck a kiss on him
Sure.
and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, they did this because the way they talk to each other doesn't make sense. And two, I guess that has to be a different Link in a way, because where the heck is Link gonna go after the end of Link's Awakening? He's kind of like I don't know, like a more extreme version of Up a Creek without a paddle. You know, if we're gonna get into spoiler territory, we have to, because this is timeline stuff. We have to be in spoiler territory.
Link's Awakening spoilers.
So yeah, Link's kind of doomed in a sense, potentially at the end of Link's Awakening. Anyways,
Is he just like hanging on like
he's just sitting
raft?
sitting on a
Just
piece of
afloat some-
driftwood
Yeah,
in the middle of the ocean,
he'll be fine. He's Link.
alone,
The seagulls will lead him.
or the windfish.
Yeah.
Or the Zoras. They swim up and help him
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, some Zoras
Maybe
live.
either
Yeah.
way. Like, but that's the way
He plays the flute.
That's the
Yeah.
way I kind of look at it. I'm like, okay, I guess they had to do this because if you really wanted to get in the nitty gritty, it doesn't make sense for it to be the same Link and then him and Zelda to have this conversations they have in the Oracle games where they don't know each other. And it's like, but I saved you
Yeah.
in Links to the Past. Like, remember that? No? Oh, okay. Anime amnesia, I guess. I don't know. So that's the way I kind of look at it. Like,
But the question is like, what made them like go back into this website and say like, oh, you know what, this is wrong.
Maybe-
That's your question, Damiani?
No. Like, it basically is like, do you agree with the change? Which
Okay.
is what it argues.
I guess I do. I guess.
Yeah, why do you think they made this change as well? Yeah, so you're right, Kyle. And I think Simmons explained that as well, because there was a contradiction. There was a contradiction that existed. I think it is a natural reaction of players who played both to like, if you played both, you're like, oh, they're not the same game. They don't know each other in this other game, and yet they know each other in this one. So, wait, this doesn't make sense that they're in the same one.
So Zelda's not present in Link's Awakening. You're saying because Link's Awakening Link is from A Link to the Past.
So Link to the Past
Yes.
and Link's Awakening are like directly the Link's
Right.
Awakening direct sequel, same
Yeah.
Link. They happen. So that Link has clearly met Princess Zelda in Hyrule.
Yes.
He saved her in A Link to the Past.
Yep.
So
Nothing romantic
So if
between
Oracle of Ages took place between those games, before Link's Awakening, but after Link to the Past, when they meet each other in the Oracle games, why is Zelda a stranger? Like someone's exactly said. Like why? Wait. Like yeah, anime amnesia. Did he forget? Didn't make sense. So to a player who reads this and then plays those games in the order they were told in the old, like the Hyrule Historia version of the timeline, a player might ask himself, why did they not know each other? Why
Where
are
are
they
the Oracle
strangers?
games now?
So instead of the Oracle games being in between, they just moved them after Link's Awakening, and it's a different Link. So
Okay, just a different Link. That's the easiest possible way to say it for anything. It's just a different Link.
Yeah, it's a different Link,
Yeah.
and it's after now.
And so we have
I don't
to,
think that was the easiest way to fix it, but it is the second probably most easiest way to fix it.
and we have to presume that Link's Awakening Link died in the ocean then.
Or,
Potentially.
You don't
Yes.
have to say he died.
He died
but,
in the
I
ocean.
mean, maybe he made it back. Maybe he didn't. I don't know.
But
he-
that's the end of his story. We don't see that
Yeah,
Link
we don't.
ever
He does
again.
not.
Okay.
Yeah, we. So as far as we know, no.
Yeah. Linebeck picks him up in a boat.
Maybe. Yeah, that could definitely
no,
happen.
that's timeline C.
You never know. There could be- what about the Lineback in this universe? There could be a Lineback in this universe. You never know. I think they could have just as easily changed the line of text to make them familiar.
Sure.
Just like said, like, oh, Link, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, they know each other. Cool.
Yeah, but rather than go into the virtual console re-releases of the Oracle games and fix a couple lines of dialogue, they're just like, it's over here now.
Yep. I'm glad
It's not the biggest change. I think the only people who will take issue with that, other than, oh, you said it was this way, now you're changing your mind again, are people who for the longest time were attached to their own self-fan theory of that, oh, the sprite for the boat at the end of Link's Awakening looks like the boat in Oracle games, so it's continuity. Like, yeah, it totally makes sense. And they had their headcanon, and now Nintendo said, yeah, that is right. You're right. Yeah, look, you guys are cool. And now they're like, nah, actually, no, you're not right.
Yeah, 'cause
so they feel burned. So
If you do the
yeah.
true ending to the Oracles, he does get in a boat and go home because both the Oracle games take place in different lands, Labrinia and Holodrum. So at the end of the games, he gets in a sailboat and he waves goodbye to everybody for whichever game you're finishing last. So you're like, oh, that totally leads into Link's Awakening. And I'm like, I guess, but I mean, not necessarily. It's just sort of a coincidental.
Yeah, because Link's Awakening's the backstory to it is that after Link to the Past, Link went out to hone his skills and went on adventures in other lands. And now he was returning back to Hyrule.
Oh, that's it. He's on his return trip?
Yeah.
That's even sadder,
So
dude.
it lined up very well with the Oracle games. It was just that one contradiction of that one interaction of Link and Zelda don't seem to know each other
Shouldn't
at
have
first.
put Zelda in the Oracle games. Shouldn't put her in there.
So,
Nope.
I mean, if they just left it as Impa, it's like, oh, we never met Impa before. So, yeah, of course she's a little strange, at first with Link. And then, oh, now we're familiar. Now we can be, we're friends and stuff. Anyway, that was the smaller change.
Okay.
The bigger change is, all right, so this isn't really new news, but I guess, whatever. Let's just go through it.
It's called a non-committal.
So, it involves Breath of the Wild, and everyone's writing the headline that Breath of the Wild now has an official place in the timeline. Nintendo, in their history section, is placing Breath of the Wild at the end of all 3 individual timelines, saying that basically, it happens in all 3 universes, basically, or 3 dimensions, or whatever. And it's up to the player to decide like which one it actually happens in. It's leaving up to the player's imagination, because when this was first teased as the possible answer, Breath of the Wild's director Fujibayashi said he was of the mindset that this game is going to be at the end of any timeline. Whatever timeline we put it in, it'll be at the end of it. But we want to leave it up to players' imagination to decide where it is. And this has kind of been a philosophy of Nintendo's for a long time, is that while they will give out specifics, they still love this angle of, we don't know what to do, so let's leave it up to the player's imagination, because that's where the fun is. So my question is, what are your thoughts on this decision? Putting Breath of the Wild can take place at the end of any of the timelines. It's up to the player's imagination. And after this, we got the most questions, not about Smash Brothers, about this one headline.
There's more questions about this than anything?
Than Smash Brothers.
All right. So I'm least qualified to talk about it. Here's my immediate reaction.
Yeah.
Is I kind of like it, because there's, I think, tens of thousands of years preceding Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of like all the other stuff that happens, there were tiny little differences, but they didn't change the fate of this moment. So I'm cool with saying this happens in all 3. That eventually the actions of all 3 of those links led to this, no matter what. That kind of makes sense to me.
All right. No, that's a good explanation.
I think the explanation is more or less just a sort of a cop-out on their end.
Oh, for sure. Yes, it is that.
Because they know there's so many things that kind of contradict putting it in any of them. It has to be in this one. No, because this, that, or oh no, she referenced this or that. And it's like, okay, there's something in the game that references something from each timeline.
Yeah.
The most sensible, I guess you could say, was putting it in timeline A, the downfall timeline. That is the most, it's rough, and I'm not saying it is logical, but it's the closest thing to it. If I really wanted to get into the nitty gritty of it, just because I'm like, okay, well, you have Rito and Zora, which don't make sense. You have Korok, which don't make sense. It doesn't make sense because, this is the new Hyrule from Spirit Tracks. And it's like, they didn't have a Temple of Time, and they didn't have like all this like actual like Arbiter's grounds and stuff like that.
That stuff would have been buried underwater.
Well, yeah, and somewhere else in the world. Like it's not even the same continent in Spirit Tracks.
The Koroks evolved from Koriki, right? Kikiri?
The Kokiri.
Right? Kokiri. They evolved, right? Just like having to be underwater.
Because of the flood. They had to evolve into like those forms. And I'm like, well, there's that. If you're in an unflooded Hyrule, why are there that? Why are there Rito?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it doesn't make sense for that. So it's like, it kind of goes in A, but then she references stuff from Twilight Princess, and it's like, you know what? It almost doesn't matter. I mean, like, I personally don't think they really cared that much.
Yeah.
And they were just like, it's far in the future. And then when it came down to actually updating their website and whatever, getting to the point where it's like, okay, now you got to put a place. You know what? It's wherever you want. Just, it's way in the future. Mm-hmm. So I think it is sort of a cop-out answer. It almost definitely can't be in the Wind Waker timeline era. Like, it almost just can't. Just because of all the things I just went over for that. And then, like, Twilight Princess is rough, too, because it's like, it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, because, it just, the whole thing is just like a hodgepodge of just things that are just, like, hard to nail down, really. So, to me, it's kind of like, I I just feel like they don't know.
They threw in the Koroks because they're cute little characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They did that. Now, if they really wanted to be continuous, whatever the word would be, someone might have said, hey, maybe don't call them that, or maybe not do that, or whatever. Just something would have changed in development somewhere along the lines, or something, or they maybe might have, if you really wanted to get all thick into the lore, they could have come up with a new reason for why they're Koroks.
Yeah.
Like within that game.
You know what? A flood could have happened and then receded in 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Could have happened.
Something like it could have gone that way with it. Master Sword's all rusted, but it's just rusted for time as well. But yeah.
So I have a question. The thing that's most fascinating to me, the connections between the games, are the Skyward Sword temples that are like 1-to-1, where
right, which couldn't happen if it was Wind Waker era, right?
Yeah,
because it's a different continent.
Yeah. But there they are, and it's just like 1-to-1. Like it just dropped in. I think they even like used the same models of those locations. If you like look at screenshots comparing the two, I think that's awesome. Skyward Sword is at the beginning of all three, right? No matter what, that is the beginning. That's so. I love that. You know what I mean? It's not direct. There's no direct path that I could draw from those to Breath of the Wild. But I just like seeing them. I just like seeing that kind of thing. It kind of adds to a legacy that's not like explicitly explained.
Well, I loved the fact that there were like, you'd go into the desert and you'd kind of look at stuff, and it kind of, if you paid attention, then you look at the map, it said like Arbiter's Grounds, and it's like, this actually is the top of that weird statue that held the Mirror of Twilight.
Really? I didn't know that's in there too. That's
like
really
the
cool.
Big thing where you had to put the spinner in to get it to come up.
Yeah.
Like you can see that, but it's almost completely buried.
Of it. Oh, that's
and it's
so
called
cool.
Arbiter's Ground. And it's all completely buried under sand stuff. So it's like the throwbacks are really neat, but in the end, it kind of bugged me in the end that there wasn't more to it other than this is a cool Easter egg.
Yes.
So personally, I was just kind of like, this is really cool. God, I wish there was more like relevance to it.
I get what you mean.
Than it was, because like there's no like quest line or anything to really like you go to Arbiter's Grounds. That's kind of it. It's just there. And then there was like the temple, which I believe was in the northeast corner of the map, kind of near the beach, and it was like literally the place where Fi does like her first dance after the first temple in Skyward Sword.
Yeah, and it's one of the places where Zelda does her.
It's like you said, it's like 1-to-1.
Yeah,
and like just slightly different overgrowth, whatever texture is on it. And I'm like, that's cool, but how does that relate to anything? It kind of doesn't. It's just there.
Geographically, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, geographic, exactly. It's like it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
and I don't know, like I'll just say this, just kind of going into it right now. Like for me, the reason all this happens is because the Zelda series has different people who write the lore at different points. There's no standard writer. Mm-hmm. There's no Bible that they refer to on it. It's just people coming in and doing their own thing at different points in time. And that's why it's disjointed. This is not like J.K. Rowling writing every piece of literature,
right?
And maybe back, going back and double checking themselves or whatever. They don't do that. Like, and a lot of series don't do that either, which is where some people, it's kind of interesting how some people like myself and others just get really involved in the lore of a series. And then like Resident Evil is a good example. And it's like, like nobody who worked on the original Resident Evils works at Capcom anymore. Yeah. So when you sit there and be like, oh, how come this story is different here for this reason? It's like, well, someone else is writing it. Like they may just have just not thought about it.
But I do think like mainline RE lore is pretty tight though, right? I don't think there's a lot of contradictions in that.
Not like contradictions, but there are some weird character motivations and some weird stuff. Like they by Resident Evil 5, they went back and tried to retroactively like fix and make everything fit together nicely, which has not happened for Zelda.
No. I don't think that will ever happen for Zelda.
And I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever happen for Zelda. What I was really hoping, and I think Mike, you were the same way. I was kind of really hoping they were just going to go and say, this is just an alternate universe. Mm-hmm. This Breath of the Wild doesn't exist on any timeline. It is its own universe. It's like a soft reboot. Yeah. I would have loved to go with the soft reboot route, and then
me too.
Maybe future games that they make after this could fill in the blanks where it's like you're going to see familiar locations, familiar events and moments, but they're going to be redone because it's a reboot universe. Yeah. That's what I would have actually wished they would have gone on than doing this like it's wherever you want it to be.
I get that because some of my favorite Zelda stuff scenario-wise is Wind Waker, is that because of what happened, because there's a version because of time travel, there's a world in Ocarina where Ganondorf is in prison for nothing, right? They just warn him, and there's just a Link who grows up doing nothing. That there's just no hero there, and so the whole world floods, and that's a cause and like effect. I love that. To me, it strengthens the scenario in a way of just like. We caused this. I really like that. I like it when it's direct. I like the theories of Twilight Princess that the guy who teaches you new moves is like a fallen Link. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, then there's the crazy theory that in that timeline, like Link never made it back from Termina or whatever, or maybe he was trapped in Termina for so long, or he died trying to get on his way back home because he didn't have Navi and he was in the Lost Woods. And then that's the spirit you find in Twilight Princess, who passes on his moves.
I love that.
Because he lived with all this regret, never being able to do that. There's all those crazy fan theories and stuff like that with Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess, which is good because they don't contradict each other. You know?
Yeah.
They can be true. They cannot be true. The problem is when you try to wrap your head around all of the massive amounts of Easter eggs and fan service in Breath of the Wild, it naturally contradicts itself. You know, because like I said, all the different tribes and races and this and that, and it's like. You know, like in Wind Waker Timeline, the Gerudo are gone, like they're just dead or something.
Yeah.
But there's Gerudo in Breath of the Wild, and there's Rito, which is weird.
Yep.
Because the previously did not exist in the same universe, kind of thing. So it's just odd. But I really wish it was just sort of a reboot. I think you probably still feel that way, maybe.
Yeah. We actually have a question about that. We talked a bunch about some of the stuff these people are going to be asking about, so give me a sec. John, the first question from John asks, hey allies, I think that putting Breath of the Wild at the end of the 3 timelines is Nintendo essentially rebooting the franchise. While there might still be references to characters, events, and locations from previous games, they will remain just that, a small reference or nod, but nothing substantial that would influence the main story or world design of future games. I think that Breath of the Wild will be a new starting point of what basically is a new timeline separate from the previous one. Going forward, new games, whether 2D or 3D, will be tied directly to the history described by Breath of the Wild, meaning events of 10,000 years ago when the Divine Beasts were first used, the calamity caused by Ganon 100 years ago, or the current period when the game actually begins. Love and respect. So, that's a good theory. To answer your questions, a little bit of this, because I was personally hoping that they would just make Breath of the Wild, as you said, just a soft reboot where this is our way of saying goodbye to the previous 30 years of Zelda. Mm-hmm. So that we have all these stories, all these lore, we know fans have loved them, they've tried to piece them together, and we even put together our version of the official events, but for various reasons, which we've all talked about already, that's as good as it's going to get. And we can't be beholden to this stuff anymore if we want to go forward and make new adventures. Especially we want to make a new continuity. We feel like with these strong tales to tell, we have new writers, we have new people who are working on the series. Let them have their chance and not be chained to this past anymore.
Yeah.
And I do like this. The reason I read this is because I like this interpretation is while that's not necessarily the case, now, especially just trying to shoehorn it in. I really wish Nintendo wouldn't do this. I really wish Nintendo would just take the stance of we're a clean break.
Yeah.
But if they're gonna still try and appease fans who care about this is a good angle to take. Okay, it takes place so far at the end of whatever timeline you want to pick.
Yeah.
But going forward, we're not acknowledging those events anymore. There's not going to be some payoff by playing Breath of the Wild 2. You're not going to learn some super cool thing about Ocarina of Time or A Link to the Past or the Wind Waker. That's it. We're not doing that anymore. You're going to have, whoa, what happened to Link and Zelda after Breath of the Wild?
Sure.
Or as this person said, as John said, maybe we'll get to learn about the events described in Breath of the Wild only, because that is our new starting point for new continuity.
That's the only thing I object to. I think we'll never see those beasts again.
Yeah.
I think that stuff.
Oh, no.
I think that will never be referenced again.
I think I agree with you. Gun to head answer, I don't think we're seeing any more of that lore.
Well, yeah, I think, honestly, he's probably put more thought into that question than Nintendo will put into the next Zelda game story. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got some questions I will go into, whether
Okay,
or not we believe that as well.
Yeah.
No, there's a good stuff. Leo writes, greetings, allies. Do you think that Nintendo desperately wants to separate upcoming Zelda games from their official timeline? Now that I see Breath of the Wild at the end of the 3 timelines with no specific connection whatsoever, I don't think they care, since I haven't think they've cared for many years now. Skyward Sword was placed at the beginning, and I felt the same because they really didn't want to mess things up back then. And I think this gives them a lot of freedom in narrative, creative freedom and narrative freedom, very similar to what you see in Dark Souls games. I do enjoy these adventures as tales and myths that you have to build up for yourself to make your own conclusions rather than an official timeline that tries to follow up and tries to avoid contradicting itself constantly. I wanted to know your opinion on this. So basically, the gist of this is, from my take of it, I wanted love and respect, or Pura Vida. Pura Vida from Costa Rica.
Oh, cool. Pura Vida. That's love and respect.
I think so,
Okay.
right? Vita's life.
Like,
Someone correct us. Like, we like make us sound good and stuff. I think that, like,
Make us sound good and stuff.
yeah, but basically, for Leo's sentiment is that it's nice. Like, basically, when they did this, like Skyward Sword, like they went in the beginning because we don't have to worry about. We might not have to worry about other stuff, but like then it ended up like, well, now everyone's looking to it to be like this cornerstone for everything. But what we're doing with Breath of the Wild, like it's nice to have them have this creative freedom and not have to worry about everything. Like fitting everything in together just leads to a lot of problems. We alluded to this in the last question and answer. This is something that Nintendo just could, they honestly, in my opinion, could do without. So I don't know. Like, basically, do you think that Nintendo really should be worrying that much about an official timeline when creating these games? And do you think that there's some kind of like obligation that they need to fulfill, especially since they put out official timelines, they put out books about this stuff? Is there an obligation for them to kind of like address this stuff going forward?
So I think the premise of the question is that the timeline doesn't matter. But I and you're right, it doesn't, right? It's always about gameplay and all those things. And I know there are people listening to this podcast right now who are pulling their hair out, where it's just like, it doesn't matter, none of that matters. I still feel though that a timeline strengthens your story, that it enhances how much you enjoy a franchise and how much you look forward to the next one. I don't think it hurts. I don't think a timeline hurts. I wish they did care more about it, because it's fun. It's fun and interesting to connect these things. And so yeah, I get this idea that like, hey, it's really nice that they don't have to worry about that old stuff, but I don't want them to keep doing that forever. And well, I mean, if they want to, sure. If every new Zelda game is a new Zelda universe, absolutely go for it, go nuts. But I don't think it hurts. I don't think it would hurt for the next game to be directly connected to Breath of the Wild in some way.
I think the problem is they did this to themselves, because when they're like, we want creative freedom, we don't want to think about the story, and here's where your problem was. Whether it was Skyward Sword by trying to do it at the very beginning or Breath of the Wild doing it at the very end, your problem is you're still making your game about Zelda, the Triforce, and Ganon. And if you want to have creative freedom, stop making everything have to take place in Hyrule and getting stopping Ganon and saving Zelda.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, because I honestly feel the best written Zelda games are the ones that don't even take place in Hyrule. Like, Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening have nothing to do with any of them, and they're strong games, almost because of it. And if you want to have a game that does take place, kind of go Wind Waker's route and go like, we are going to specifically target the specific events and make it like a follow-up or a prelude, to another like Zelda game, where Wind Waker heavily relied on Ocarina of Time storyline. Yeah. So to me, it's like, look, if you want to have it in Hyrule and you want to have Triforce, you want to have this, you want to have all these stock standard things, pick a spot or a game you want to directly prelude or follow up and focus and have that be like some part of your focus. And if you don't want to focus at all on the story, don't put it in Hyrule. Don't have Zelda and the Triforce and Ganon. Like, you can do without them.
Because they're not saying anything new about him. What have we learned about Ganon? Nothing. They're just reusing him over and over.
Yeah, especially with Breath of the Wild, like, it was just kind of like he's just a fart cloud.
Yes.
Wind Waker, they tried to do something with him.
I really liked him in Wind Waker.
Right, because he had character and an arc, kind of. So it was like, that was good. But, I feel like they need to stop feeling they're obligated to put something that either looks like Ganon or is Ganon or some form of Ganon, and he's
Yeah.
trying to get the Triforce or power of some sort, and having Zelda having to stop him. Like, I think they've done that basic overlying story narrative. They've done it to death.
Yeah.
There's really not much more interesting they can do with it. If at least from that perspective of like, I gotta save Hyrule and probably Zelda at some point. I gotta stop Ganon and seal him away. Like, there's nothing more to be done there.
Yeah.
That's interesting on that narrative part. Now, there's definitely, if you still wanted to use those characters, like I said, I think you can make very interesting storylines.
With twists on those, absolutely.
Yeah, if you still want to have those characters and setting, absolutely. But at that point, you should probably try to make it like do what Wind Waker did and make it feel like a part of an overall grander narrative that does feel connected and does like have weight to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just go somewhere else.
Right.
There's more to the world than Hyrule.
Yeah.
Because that moment when you're in Hyrule Castle beneath the water, that means more because it is connected to prior stories.
Yeah.
If Wind Waker is its own isolated game and none of it happened before it, it's kind of weird. That doesn't have that impact of going to Hyrule beneath the water. And so I think there are advantages to connecting them for sure.
Yeah, the Wind Waker is like you said, Kyle. To me, the Wind Waker is one of the greatest examples of the payoffs and some of like the beauty you can see in a more beauty that you get out of a game that does embrace a previous game, like direct connections, trying to have some semblance of continuity. So to me, going from Ocarina of Time to the Wind Waker, connecting those two games, like I love that connection they have, and I like how the Wind Waker says, "All right, this is it's still same concepts, but the world's different. It's been flooded." You got all these different like themes, similar themes, but also like new locations. But then you find out, oh, there are familiar things in here still. There's still it feels like the world has moved on. It has evolved from this game, but you still have payoffs from playing both. You didn't need to play Ocarina of Time to like appreciate the Wind Waker. But you definitely got a whole lot more out of it if you did play that. And that's kind of like what I personally like to see in terms of going forward with the series. Is that you might necessarily need to have played the previous game or games to get them, like, to enjoy the newest one, but I would appreciate it if they didn't just shun, or it's like walking on eggshells when you're trying to talk about older games in the series. I really hope Breath of the Wild going forward, they can feel comfortable, Nintendo, embracing, like the next game, oh, let's reference that moment when, Link has a problem with this part. Oh, it's because, like, he sees a guardian. Like, let's say he goes to New Land and he sees a statue of a guardian, and he freaks out. Why is he freaking out? I've never played Breath of the Wild. Oh, those are those enemies. They do a flashback, and, like, those are those terrible enemies or something.
Yeah.
I know that's not the greatest connection, but, like, something, you can use your imagination. Something along the lines of that, where you played both, you get a more satisfying, you get more satisfaction out of it, essentially.
Yeah, because I think a problem with Breath of the Wild and really with Skyward Sword was just kind of like they wanted to have their story and they wanted to they kind of just thought up what they were going to do, and then it massively contradicts all the games around it. Mm-hmm. So because in that point I'm just like, was it really so necessary to have the Triforce be involved in this game? And we need to have the Master Sword origin. Well, they already said with the Master Sword origin, we're going to make a new origin. Mm-hmm. Why? That's what I want for this game. Well, why don't you just not call it the Master Sword then? Like, don't if they want to have creative freedom, don't tie yourself, because they don't tie themselves down. They just sort of like willy nilly sometimes just the Master Sword was this one thing, and then you had to go on this quest line and do all these errands for all these dragons, and then they had to like add these flames to it. I'm like, what? Like, I don't where does that come from? And like, that has no mention or relevance in anything else. Doesn't matter. But we really wanted it because I think it's almost kind of, it's like when marketing, conflicts with production, where it's like, we got to have that branding.
Yeah.
It's got to have the Triforce in there somewhere. Like, they don't even say the word Triforce in Breath of the Wild, but, we got to have that on, like, the stained glass window, and then Hyrule Castle and stuff. Like, we got to have that. And, like, people know the name Ganon, so we'll call, like, Breath of the Wild, you could have called that last boss anything you wanted.
Could have called him Demise.
You could have. You could have called him Bob.
Yeah.
And it would have had the same relevance because he doesn't speak. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say anything. Like, he's just evil Cloud. You know, just it doesn't even matter. But it's like, you know what? People remember that name Ganon. You know, it's memed on the internet to this day. Those CDI games did us a favor. So we need that name Ganon in there. Does it matter? No.
What I kind of like about Skyward Sword is that it kind of justifies why these 3 characters keep getting reincarnated, but also like it doesn't explain why Beetle gets reincarnated. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense, like, because of what happens at the end of that game.
Why does Impa keep coming back?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense why everybody else keeps coming back, but I kind of like this idea that, like, part of the goddess is in Zelda. It's cool.
Yeah. This actually was just pretty interesting. The real quick thing I just want to say, I just hope going forward they keep moving forward with games. The jumping back and forth to try and for the sake of we need freedom. We can't be attached to this game. Go 100 years this way. We don't have to worry about it. 100 years that way. We don't have to worry about it. It would be nice if they don't have to worry about that anymore and can keep going forward.
And that's what 10,000 years is. It totally is.
That's what they did.
That's longer than our written history. That's, I think, the point of it. It's just like, don't worry about it.
Break clean. Yeah. Facsimile writes, hi, allies. With the new and arguably not so improved updates to the Zelda timeline, I'm curious about how it affects your perception of Breath of the Wild. Does it retroactively sweeten or sour your experience? Or does it bring an entirely new dimension of enjoyment or dissatisfaction to the game, independent of your previous playtime? Similarly, how have your feelings about any of the given Zelda games changed once they were given placement in the Zelda timeline, if at all? Love and respect.
Yeah, I dig that question. I don't know. Do you feel your opinion on Breath of the Wild changed? Yes, like in any way.
The only thing they could have done is try to actually place it between some games, which I think would have actively would have negatively impacted my perception of Breath of the Wild. If they tried to more strongly connect it.
Oh yeah.
At this point now, like after, like they had their chance in game to do stuff.
Yeah.
When it was clear that all right, this game is probably way after anything, if it's even in one of these timelines. I guess they're going for a clean slate here.
Yeah.
My hope at that point, my expectation was that's what I hope the messaging is that they're not going to really try and connect to any games. And despite them saying, oh, it's at the end of any timeline, they're not, like, it's still not really connected to anything else. It's probably very likely going to be a clean break. So if anything, nothing they've said so far has like negatively impacted my perception of Breath of the Wild. It was just in the moment of playing that game, a little bit of disappointment. Like everything you've said so far, Simmons, about like little Easter eggs that just didn't really go anywhere with them other than Easter eggs. Ganon, they, like you said, could have been picked any other name for the boss and it would have gotten the same like impact. It was just like a red herring almost the whole time. Like there's gonna be this big payoff. What's this big payoff? There is no big payoff. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Could have been anything.
I mean, Calamity Ganon's a cool looking boss.
Oh yeah, visually, yeah. I mean, it's something different, but at the same time, there's certain expectations for some fans when you throw out the name Ganon.
Yes.
Ganon, you're gonna see Ganon. This is good, and then like they tease it like this is gonna be this big reveal. When you get there, you get to finally see Ganon. Everybody, and no, not really. It's just this thing. It's cool, but that's me. I don't know about how either of you feel.
No, I get what you're. It's basically it's not. It doesn't positively impact you to say it's at the end of the timeline, but it's a relief, and I'm there with you. It's a relief that it's at the end.
Yeah,
of the timeline.
because wasn't they when they threw out like the 10,000 years number? It's kind of like okay, this is at the end of whatever.
Yeah.
And if they tried to smush it in between two other games, I would have been like, no, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Because and even if you wanted to say, oh well, it's after Skyward Sword but before everything else, like no, because you directly reference things from other games happening before it. So relief that they're putting it at the end. I'm disappointed that they're not going with it's its own thing.
Yeah,
but I'm very neutral either way on it. Just kind of like whatever, it's fine. At least they're acknowledging that they put a lot of time and distance between them. But I really it would have been more positive for me if they had just said it's brand new, like it's rebooted. This has no connection like to anything. We're just going forward from here. This is the new start. I would have more positively looked at it like that rather than trying to say like, doing that. It's wherever you want it to be, honey. Like that's my only thing I can say about positive or negative on effect of that game in particular for me. So,
all right. I mean, yeah, I think we all kind of like feel much the same. I want to wrap this up by bringing this back to one of the most, I think the biggest questions asked about this topic from certain people, like, and where you stand on this kind of like question. It was brought up by VG Junkie, and another ally, Morgan Mahala, also asked a question that's very similar to VG Junkie's. So I'm going to read VG Junkie's submission, but they basically asked the same thing. Do you think that Nintendo actually cares about the Zelda timeline, or is it just an arbitrary fan obsession that they decided to play along with? As previously stated, it's basically like they decide a game's place in the timeline only after it's already done. Do you think that the ties and references we have between games are planned as part of some overarching through line, or are they really just the work of some random staff members that had cool ideas for references to older games? I have my answer.
I have a question to before we get into this. I remember hearsay of a document. Of a secret document before the timeline was public.
Yeah.
I now believe that document never existed.
So, to clarify,
yeah,
you're talking about a document that Miyamoto said in I believe it was an interview with Super News, maybe a decade or more ago.
Sure.
Where the outlet asked about it, and Miyamoto said, "There's actually a document we have that connects the games." It was later clarified to be just bullet points about certain things that would connect to each other in the game. It was, and when I talked to Takashi Tezuka at E3 a few years ago when we were still game trailers, essentially admitted to if you're looking for an official answer to this, Tezuka said him and Miyamoto, they never conceived some grand overarching storyline like when they're making the original Legend of Zelda. There was no document from the start. They weren't charting out future games. They basically were worried about creating lore and stuff just for a single game. There's plenty of stuff that's come out since that talks about like the different ideas they had for the original Legend of Zelda, from like the Triforce being computer chips and stuff to like the future thing that everyone now wants to see happen.
Yeah.
They had a lot of crazy things, but it's clear that like they had multiple different weird, crazy, awesome ideas they wanted to try out for the original Legend of Zelda. They went with one. And it's pretty clear after the facts, as they moved on since that game, oh, let's make a sequel. Well, don't sequels usually, like, it's like common sense. Oh, the sequel. Yeah, it'll just be like after. It'll be the next one or something like that. But, I mean, they've always introduced elements of, hey, we will acknowledge a previous game, but we will also introduce new elements that sometimes confuse people. And the answer to this question is that it's a little bit complicated. I don't think Nintendo cared about... They do not care ahead of time about planning out for the original 30 years of Zelda up to Breath of the Wild. I do not think Nintendo cared about mapping out all of the games. There was no, hey, our next game is going to be Skyward Sword. Okay, we really got to figure out, it's going to be a prequel. We really got to figure out how it connects all those games. They're like, no, make it a game first. And then we'll start filling in maybe some cool nods and stuff like that. I think that's the best you ever get. There are a few exceptions here and there, but I think that's the base level you get from that. And I do think a lot of the work is done after the fact. The biggest exception to this is that there have been a few key staff members, a part of the Zelda team over the years, that tried to work in a little bit more of like a planned continuity between the immediate games they were working on.
Who are these people?
Like Yoshiaki Koizumi, Kensuke Tanabe, Tezuka himself. But the thing is, I don't think they were creating like lore for the larger mythology of the series is the best you can point to. I still don't think, despite like my love and passion using them that you routinely as defense for why there was a Zelda timeline, I don't even think they were conceiving of a large order of games falling into like a master timeline. I think at any point, like Koizumi is like, I'm thinking of like 2 or 3 games in my head. I want them to connect like this, and it's like, oh, Ocarina of Time, like in Majora's Mask, and maybe the Wind Waker, because Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker have a lot of strong connections to each other. But no one ever until recently, when they were told, hey, let's sell some books that put together the whole history of like the Legend of Zelda series. Let's try and nail it down. I don't think anyone at Nintendo was actively at any point trying to fit every single game into a continuity unless they were asked about it. They only started thinking about it because the press started asking, because fans started asking about it. That's my honest, like the most honest answer I think you get is that it is a complicated answer. Tones and beliefs shifted over time as key staff members changed, but the Zelda series continuity was never something planned from the beginning. It wasn't even planned through the midway. And I think as the creators were made more and more aware of fan theories or fan expectations, fan perceptions of the game, input from like the other subsidiaries, probably Nintendo America, Nintendo of Europe, they were like, let's throw in some of this stuff. Like, it's nice. And I think they do cared about some elements of it, too. I also talked, like, Koizumi definitely cared about the stuff he was playing. I think even Miyamoto cared about some of the elements here and there.
Ocarina?
Yeah, and even, like, Aonuma, and I definitely know Fujibashi cares whether or not you think he's good or not. He definitely has a passion for trying to connect stuff together. It's just they've all tried to connect their individual stuff, and that's why it's always been a hodgepodge of, like, and a mismatch of, like, where these go together, but these don't go together. But like they should have just like split off everything into their own isolated clusters and been like, this was like the old series, like in their self-contained. Here's like the 3D Zeldas, and they're all in their own self-contained series. Here are all the spin-off or like the Capcom or the flagship original one, the Fujibashi arc basically of like those Minish Cap, Oracles, Four Sword stuff, and then this new one. I think maybe doing like micro series would have worked out and better. But at the same time, there's a little bit of beauty and appreciation to seeing fans over 30 years try and piece all this together, but never quite able to do it and stuff. Like there would always be like someone pointing out, well, that doesn't fit quite right together. And I think it was a fun pastime for a while, but I think at this point, Nintendo either needs to decide with Breath of the Wild 2, do we want to make continuity going forward, and what do we want out of it? And what do we want users, like the consumers and fans, to get out of it? Or like I think they need to pick something and stick with it this time, and they'll be better off for it.
Yeah. Going into my, this is like a big pre-canned speech here.
Let's do it.
For me is I don't, again, mostly the kind of what you were saying about like I don't think necessarily there was any great pre-planned thing, especially 30 years ago. Like when Miyamoto and Tezuka were making Zelda 1 and 2, they were not thinking of future games. I think they were so young, and video games industry itself was so young and just sort of just rebounding. Like there was no idea in your heads about making this giant sprawling epic that would go on for 30 years. Like,
or even a franchise.
Exactly, even a franchise. So the way I look at it is this. When they started, there were people who did care a little bit about what was going on. So in the early 90s, Yoshiaki Koizumi was a film student. He graduated from a film college. And he got hired on at Nintendo because, like most college people, you don't always get the job you want that you went to school for. So he takes a job at Nintendo. And then from what I've researched is that they basically had Link to the Past pretty much done when they hired him on, and they said, hey, we were kind of finished this game up, but we don't really have any backstory going on to it. You want to write, like, you want to write some backstory for us, like on this? Put it in the instruction manual. So he does, and he writes the Link to the Past instruction manual. So Koizumi comes up with the whole concept of the 3 golden goddesses, the creation of Hyrule, the Triforce, the Sacred Realm. He comes up with all that stuff, kind of puts it in the instruction book, gets horribly mistranslated in English, as you're well aware of. But you can, I think if you read the GBA version, it's actually the correct translation. But anyways, so that's his first gig at Nintendo, is to come up with the backstory to the whole Zelda series. So he does in the instruction manual for Link to the Past. Then he gets on his next project with Tanabe, kind of had started with Tezuka as an after-school club thing for making Link's Awakening. And they're like, hey, let's bring Koizumi in. He's a romantic. And they say, write the whole scenario. And he said to an interview with Chris Kohler and Wired, Koizumi said, I came up with like the whole scenario. Like the only thing Tanabe had come up with was basically like an island.
Sure.
With an egg on it. Like that's all he had at that point. Oh, you're trapped on an island with an egg. So he's like, I came up with the idea of a dream and like the story and everything, all the rest. So he said he was really inspired by Twin Peaks and yada yada. So he comes up with the whole scenario really for Link's Awakening is Koizumi, which to me is super brilliant. Like I love the storyline of the game. Will fight people over the storyline of Link's Awakening. And then after that, he works on Ocarina of Time. He's an assistant director. He's doing a lot of the 3D character modeling. He worked on Mario 64 as well. And he, in the same interview, he talks about how he had to hide story from Miyamoto in Ocarina of Time inside NPC dialogue, including the Flat and Sharp brothers, is what he pointed out specifically.
Who is that?
Those are the 2 ghosts who guard the royal family tomb in the Kikari graveyard.
The composer brothers teach you the sun.
They don't teach you the sun.
Or I mean,
you go down in there,
you
but
go
they're
down.
there.
Yeah.
So he had to hide story from Miyamoto.
Why? What do they say? What do those guys say?
They talk about how like they were instructed by the royal family to think of a song that could control time.
Cool.
And that Ganondorf basically tried to strong arm the research out of them, and they basically like would refuse to give it, and that they were murdered for basically withholding this secret.
Yeah, that's fun
him.
lore.
So,
I like stuff
right.
like that.
So
yeah.
But Miyamoto hates that stuff because he hates dialogue. I think he just comes from the arcade era of the 80s where it's just immediate gratification. And then Koizumi co-directs Majora's Mask, where Aonuma is also the other director. He does all the critical path stuff in the dungeons. Koizumi did all the NPC dialogue.
The good stuff.
And all the side quests in Majora's Mask. After that, he's an assistant director on Wind Waker, which I highly regard the story of Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And then he moves away because they start EAD Tokyo. And he goes and he makes Mario games from then till now.
What's his first one?
Technically, technically Mario 64 is the first game he was an assistant director on.
Right.
He did Sunshine. He did Galaxy. Director of Galaxy.
Yeah, he's leading at that point, right?
Actual director of Galaxy.
Yeah.
Then he moves up after Galaxy 1, and he's just producer role after that.
Sure.
But he comes up with the story for Rosalina. He writes that book himself, yada,
Cool.
yada. But he's just doing Mario now. Because he was, I look at it this way. We had a guy who came from a story-driven art school path. He had this lore built in. He kind of tried to always because from Link to the Past to Wind Waker, they were easy to follow. They actually definitely connected. After that, you have other people doing various different Zelda games at various different times, and that's where I think all the jumbledness comes from. With how does Twilight Princess fit in? Very, very roughly. After Majora's Mask, stuff like that, and Four Swords Adventure over here somewhere. So, and then Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks do follow a very linear timeline. Like they're obviously very following Toon Link down that path, but it's all the games post Majora's and Wind Waker are just they don't fit nearly as well because
Koizumi left.
You had the advantage of having a guy who at least in his brain was connecting all these stories he worked on for all the sequence of those 4 or 5 games in a row. So it's it was easy for them to connect because whether he was super serious about it or not, the idea was he still it was his brain who thought up most of this lore stuff.
Yeah.
And when his brain's not gone, and Nintendo, I don't think cared that particularly. I don't think there was ever a moment where they're like, hey, can you come down, back to Kyoto and go over the series lore? No one's fact checking him in Tokyo about it. They were just kind of like, oh, we'll go make our games and you'll make your games kind of thing. And I think that's what happened there. And that's where the confusion came from. So I think it's kind of a problem of you had someone who was kind of doing something. He kind of started something. And the fans really gravitated towards it, so they didn't want to let it go, but they also didn't care that much that they're like, I need to have a Bible. So it kind of just sort of became this weird sort of almost series of events as to where I look at where the Zelda game fell into now.
Yeah.
Where we are now. That's just how it was. It was they definitely wanted to appease fans, but they weren't that committed to it, so you kind of got this weird jumbled thing that you get now with the Zelda timeline.
And going back to Damiani's point, I feel like there's no excuse now. It's you've done your reboot essentially. You've given yourself 10,000 years. If you want to make a timeline, if you want to put a timeline up on your website, do it right. Make that Bible. Do that right now.
I mean, my greatest wish, honestly, for the Zelda series would be for them to just get in touch with Koizumi and say, can you write, I mean, he's so high up at Nintendo now, though, but can you just write us a series Bible? Just write us a long list of things that whatever.
Yeah, he's hardware designer at Switch now. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So just come up with a timeline for us, and we'll just kind of pick and choose where we want to put the next 10 games.
Yeah.
We'll just
that'd be so good.
To me, I'm it doesn't have, make it as detailed or undetailed as you want. Just make a roadmap, and then we'll make a game, and then we'll decide, we'll look at your roadmap and go, we want it there.
Yeah.
But at least at that point, you've already just made the roadmap. Because like you said, at this point, 30 plus years in, it's obvious people like this. People still like it. We're still talking about it. I don't think it would be that. It wouldn't really take that much time and money to just build a roadmap out for the next 10 years. Post Breath of the Wild, and just be just have someone figure this out, and that's just his job. If that's all, even if that's all he does, that's fine. And you can just stick things in, games in where you want them to be.
Yeah.
But at least you've had some sort of coherency built out, because now people do care, and not like in a meme way, like with the Mario or the Donkey Kong lore.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, try to read about like the Great Ape War and stuff like that with the DK country timeline and stuff. Like it is
The Great Ape War?
Yes, I am dead serious.
Is that because of some 64 stuff? Because they have
Yep,
weapons?
exactly.
Okay, great.
And why certain games, like remember when Rare was gone and they had that era of weird Donkey Kong games, Jungle Climber and stuff that, and like they tried to fit this in, and they. I'm dead serious.
And Jungle Beat,
and Jungle Beat is, which was also a Koizumi game, by the way.
Yeah.
Which he did not want to have any reference to the Rare games on, which was really bizarre. But I don't know if it was like either he was just being respectful or he just hated them. I don't know. But Jungle Beat was still a fascinating,
really cool game. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a Koizumi directed title, I believe, though not much lore there.
Yeah, not much lore in that one. Feels good to just beat on the drums and punch a guy, though.
Yep,
Yeah.
It does feel fantastic.
I think we've had our fill of Zelda for the year.
We'll come back.
Zelda Timeline discussion.
We'll check in a year from now.
We'll come back a year. Next Zelda game's announced. So I'm sure we'll come back to this. Thank you for all those questions for that. That was a fun discussion. I want to wrap this up by a really brief but kind of fun little headline. How do you say the Nintendo Entertainment System when abbreviated? How do you pronounce it? This has become a thing after the Japanese release of WarioWare Gold. Mm-hmm. It has a museum section in that game, and in the Japanese characters for the Nintendo Entertainment System, they spell out Nesu in Japanese. So people interpret this as an official stance on the pronunciation of the classic console to be NES. Case closed, right? Wrong. We're running a little long here, so there were several questions about this subject. I don't think we really need to get that in depth with it because so people are taking this as game came out in Japanese version. Mm-hmm. They said it's this.
Yeah.
So
Nintendo published
and Nintendo's a Japanese company, so the Japanese version should be the most authentic. especially just talking about Zelda Timeline stuff. Yeah. That was a very
what could be more authentic?
Yeah, what could be more authentic than that? Well, let's just wrap this up right now. I'm gonna play a clip. You all are gonna hear it in just a second, and you're gonna see it in just a second. This is from E3 2005, and it features the late and great Satoru Iwata. And he's coming back to help us settle this debate.
Wait, who is Satoru Iwata? What is his job? President and CEO.
Yes.
Definitive. This is going to be the definitive way to pronounce the...
At the time, he was the president and CEO.
Yes.
Like, if this is an authority on official Nintendo stuff, there's no one higher than Satoru Iwata.
No one.
No one.
Yeah. Well, he was handpicked by Hiroshi Yamauchi himself to succeed.
Oh yeah,
yes.
I forgot about the previous.
Which not in the family anymore.
Which, by the way, yes, he was the third person to run it. It was 3 people, all from that clan in ancient Japan.
Do you think
that ran
Nintendo?
Nintendo?
The first non-family member.
And he was the first non, and he was handpicked.
Do you think there was a Yamauchi who was like really bummed that he wasn't picked?
That secretly plotted against Satoru Iwata?
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, sorry, we
got
way off. Okay.
In terms of authority,
because that has anything to do with Gunpei Yokoi.
Don't get into that. Don't. That's too sad.
Let's not.
That's a weird.
Go down
that is a terrible rabbit hole.
All right, so check this out, and we'll be right back.
But we are redefining the term backward compatibility. That's because we have designed Revolution to be a virtual console capable of downloading 20 years of Nintendo content. You will be able to purchase great games originally created for NES, Super NES, and Nintendo 64. It is accurate to say that Nintendo Revolution is technically capable of playing virtually every Nintendo console game ever created.
So, as you just saw and heard, Iwata clearly says NES and Super NES when referring to the virtual console coming to the Revolution, which would become the Wii in 2006.
And as someone who used to professionally parody the man when he was still among us, I believe I will take his word for it.
Thank you.
That it was NES classic or NES, an NES, and as they said in the clip, NES remix.
Yeah.
You know, when that game came out. So yeah, you don't be president of Nintendo and not know what your most successful product is. You know, because and here's the thing: the only time I ever heard people call it NES were people who were super casual who didn't play video games.
No way.
Almost
way.
everyone I knew growing up called it Nintendo, mostly just blank Nintendo.
Yeah, I know.
NES
Nintendo.
was around, and then like casual fans who like had it, but kind of just played a couple games on it. They're like, yeah, I got a NES, I got a SNES. I would say SNES because it was easier than saying Super NES,
Sure.
just because it was a shorter
Yeah,
mouthful.
I've heard SNES more than NES. I can't really remember too often anyone saying NES instead of NES, but SNES. I've heard
Yeah.
that more.
And on podcasts, I feel like there's a lot of people who are hardcore who say NES and SNES.
And
Probably.
And now they gotta
Probably.
stop.
Well,
Now-
anecdotally, growing up.
They should have been stopped.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
anecdotally, growing up,
Yeah.
most people called it Nintendo. That's like 70%.
Yeah.
And then
We're gonna play Nintendo for
20,
sure.
Then 20% said NES, and then 10% said NES.
Yeah.
NES was just not a term I heard a lot. And then like, and to throw fire on the other way, I guess, or oil on the fire is, I always thought NES in Earthbound was a reference
I think it still is.
to Nintendo Entertainment System, and I'm like, oh, is it like the Nintendo? So his name is NES, like a funny nod, haha. But I don't know, is it? Is
I
it or
think it
not?
is.
But does that confirm it the
reference
other way?
to
though?
because it's a reference to one of the scientists' name who researched the Loch Ness monster.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that makes sense because the spelling is NESS, right? No.
Damiani.
Ah.
Well, I mean, Nessie and N64,
You
Mario
troll.
64. Yeah.
Ah.
It's not right. But yeah, even if NES's name is a reference to the NES, you still gotta say NES.
But but his name is Ness, not NES.
Well, whose name is NES?
Not his.
It's still a reference.
Like-
it's still not.
But no, this is WarioWare, guys. I mean,
Yes.
come
Yeah.
on. Like,
Yep.
it's a game that always is just poking fun of itself constantly. It's just having a little bit of fun. And, like, I know you want to point out, there is no NES in Japan.
There.
It's
Yeah.
just Famicom.
Yeah.
Family Computer. And how many people in Japan call it Family Computer? They just call it Famicom. They don't, but they don't call it, like, FCM or anything like that. I
Nintendo
guess.
Entertainment System NES. Yeah, it's a term used outside of Japan for the console. So the authority on that are the people who work, Nintendo of America, Nintendo of Europe, essentially.
Yeah.
They've always referred to it. If you go track down like Reggie interviews and stuff like that where he speaks, NES. They always say NES stuff, but like having Satoru Iwata at E3 say NES and Super NES, that's it. Like, that's a pivotal moment. They're talking about the virtual console being unveiled. Like, this is a huge thing. Listen, you heard that applause from that crowd.
They went nuts.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
You got to get that right. NES, Super NES, and if you doubt that, as Simmons mentioned earlier, go track down some other directs of his, especially the one where he talks about NES Remix. He said, Iwata says, NES Remix. Like, any chance you can get it. Might not be the best pronunciation. It might be a little hard to say sometimes, but it is clearly NES, not NES.
And it's funny how we are today now, where we saw that clip and everyone's going nuts for it, and now here we are today going, "Where's our virtual console on Switch? Where's my NES and SNES games, Nintendo?
Yeah.
I want to pay like a subscription fee for them." Like it's funny how like it's completely now it's an expectation and a disappointment that you don't have your old games all for. And I agree to an extent. I'm like, yeah, why are you turning down free money, Nintendo? This is unlike you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found that reaction a little funny now between then, which is like this amazing announcement, and I didn't ever thought about that. Now and now it's like, where is it? Where's my money?
Yeah.
Like, where my NES? Or my NES, if you're really weird, I guess. But no, it's like I think honestly people were blowing the WarioWare a little too out of the water because it's WarioWare. It's always been a fun game. It is literally a game being sent to die on the 3DS in 2018. I'm sure it's fantastic, But
Oh, it is. I've been playing it. It's fun.
yeah, I'm sure it's a fantastic game, but it's
Yeah.
like it was announced kind of briefly in one direct and then never heard from again from Nintendo.
Yeah, it's
officially.
a bummer because there's actually a lot of new interesting things. I thought it would be just mini games all thrown together.
Yeah.
It's this weird story to it, and like they put a lot of effort into this thing.
It's like turning into like the Wario's Woods or something like this. Super late in
Yep.
the games, like Kirby's Adventure.
Yes.
This came out long after the system's prime, but guess what? It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel that's the unfortunate fate of this WarioWare game with like the zero advertising. Like this reminded me it existed when you said,
Viral
"Hey,
marketing."
did you hear about that NES thing?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What thing?" And I'm like, "Oh, people are going nuts because they call it a Nesu in WarioWare." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that game comes out in August. Oh yeah, it exists. Oh, that's sad."
Yeah. Very true. Very true. That is going to wrap it up, though. Good episode. I want
we
to.
solved a lot of problems here today.
Yeah, we did. A lot of things worked out here. I want to thank every one of you who sent in questions for this episode. If you'd like to submit questions to be considered in future episodes of Friend Code, look out for a post on Patreon for $5 and up patrons the week that we'll be recording episodes, so every other week. And I will do a post calling for your questions and submissions. And just check the topics. Keep the questions related to the topics we're talking about. More likely to get selected. And I picked them to help drive the conversation, as you saw this time. I also want to thank Simmons for coming down and being on the episode.
Oh, yeah. My pleasure.
And where can people check out your guys' stuff if they're interested?
I mean, honestly, you can just go, if you just YouTube or Google YoVideoGames, you'll find us.
Sure.
YoVideoGames, Maximilian Dude, Miles 93, whatever, if you want. Like, that's mostly fighting game focused. I'm the RPG and platformer guy, which is why I guess I'm here talking about Zelda. Because, I still say Zelda is the greatest game series of all time. But that's just me.
That's not just you. No way. I might agree with you.
that's
If we're talking a series, yes.
Yeah, like, it's kind of like, it's the quality and the consistency is... It's hard to top Zelda, I feel.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, YoVideoGames, or if you just look up like Assist Me Doom or Doom Assist Me on Twitter and Twitch, you'll be fine. But YoVideoGames will get you where you're going.
Cool.
Nice. And thank you, Kyle,
Yeah.
for joining and sitting through all that Zelda talk.
I like Zelda Talk.
I hope you like the content.
I
know
learned
you
a lot.
do.
I learned a bunch. I actually learned.
We once met long ago and had a long Zelda talk over some
Skyward
beef
Sword.
on
Skyward Sword beef, yes.
And there's Skyward Sword beef.
Yeah.
Exactly, because... Yeah, it just that showed me. I'm like, yeah, Kyle really does know what he's talking about with Zelda. He likes
Viewers,
Zelda too.
Yeah.
Because I thought Mike was like the guy who knew everything, about Zelda, or cared
does.
that deeply about
He still
Zelda.
does,
But I'm like,
yeah.
there are more.
saying that
there
Kyle
are more
knows
of us
more
out
about
there.
Zelda
Yeah.
than I do.
Yeah.
There you go. Like confirmed right now. Kyle knows
You know what's
more.
funny? I feel like Breath of the Wild has nobody's cranky about Skyward Sword anymore. You know what I mean?
I am.
But I feel like I feel like water under the bridge right now. You know what I mean? Like Breath of the Wild fixed a lot of things. I think it
Right. I mean, I
Oh,
called
yeah.
my stream when I got it, like the
Yeah.
night it came out. I'm like, the official apology for Breath of the Wild. Skyward Sword, or
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild is apology for Skyward Sword. But yeah. No, I mean, honestly, the only people who are going to argue about Skyward Sword are just the weird lore people like me at this point.
Sure.
Like, otherwise, you're just kind of like, oh, how was Skyward Sword? Oh, yeah, that was a game. I forgot. It came out, like, way after the Wii was dead.
Yeah.
So most people just forgot it existed just because of the timing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, with that,
Yep.
thank you again. Thank you all for some of your questions. And until next time, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Or some other land.